Drought looks different in a temperate rainforest. You can be surrounded by water and in desperate need of it at the same time. Metlakatla relies on precipitation to power the lights and provide drinking water. But the community is navigating a different relationship with a resource that seemed abundant.
Metlakatla is the anglicized pronunciation of a Tsimshian word, Metlakatla, which means saltwater channel where the wind dies down.
Gavin Hudson, who serves on Metlakatla's tribal council, says there's a common saying. The precipitation that feeds Metlakatla's lakes is some of the best tasting drinking water in the world. In fact, a water bottling company briefly opened up here. Hudson says the idea of having an abundance of water is an important part of the culture.
The Tsimshian have always been people of the water, people of the salmon.
Hudson says locals have been noting dry conditions and the changes it's brought for a while. Low salmon returns in streams typically cooled by rain. The blueberry bushes haven't been as plump or abundant. And a big difference, grown-ups haven't been able to fall back on a familiar summer joke they would say with a wink.
The usual thing that you would hear is, Mom, Dad, can I go swimming down on the beach? And their response would be, is there still snow on the mountain?
The catch, he says, there used to almost always be snow on top of the mountain, all the way through July.
Now we don't say that because there's no, even if we do get some snow, it's not deep. It's not snowpack, it's just the light dusting, and it's usually gone after a good rain. That's unusual.
Snowmelt helps feed Metlakatla's lakes depending on the season. It's like money in the bank. But recently, there's been more climate variability, less snow and rain. In an average year, Metlakatla receives around 110 inches of precipitation. That's down significantly to 80 or 90 inches a year in the last 5 years. Metlakatla is on the Annette Island Reserve, just a short ferry ride from Ketchikan. It's home to about 1,500 people. It's traditionally a community powered by hydroelectricity. But with water in short supply, the community has had to run on diesel, which can make it expensive to turn on the lights. A few years ago, Janelle Winter noticed a dramatic shift in the water supply after hiking up a mountain to scope out the main reservoirs.
When you could see all three of those dams and you could literally walk across that channel on the old 27 dam, you're like, this is not a normal condition, and you probably should never be able to do that.
Winter's work previously focused on invasive species, but around 2015, her job title changed. She became Metlakatla's Climate and Energy Grant Coordinator. She says at first, she struggled with how to describe the unusually dry conditions. It just felt
wrong that you could be in a temperate rainforest and be in a drought.
Winter says she knew the community needed to scale back its energy use to build its reservoirs back up. To do that, Metlakatla would have to navigate a different relationship with water. For a time, that's meant burning diesel for the traditionally hydro community. Metlakatla received funding from the Bureau of Indian Affairs for a one-time purchase of bulk fuel, which can be as high as $4 per gallon. Winter says cutting back on hydropower has helped restore water levels in the lakes. And a phone call from the National Weather Service last year finally gave her a way to put the experience into words. They told her, yes, you were officially in a severe drought, and so are other communities in Southeast Alaska.
Really helped us to define and take even more ownership of what was going on. That this was something that we needed to learn how to deal with now, so that when we met the challenge again in the future, we would already know how to do it.
But the Metlakatla Indian community has already taken steps to prepare.
We're going to talk about the Drought Declaration for Southeast Alaska, and then ways that you guys can help save water and energy and, important to your parents, money.
Winter has been in front of this classroom before. These kids have been primed on the drought since they were in elementary school, even when no one was calling it that. Today, they're getting the drill again. She tells them there are ways they can take charge and cut back on water consumption. They can change the narrative, even when the climate seems unpredictable. It's the future they're inheriting.
Trying to teach grown people to change behaviors is really, really hard. But getting kids excited about changing behaviors is much easier. And if you can get them passionate about it, then they take that message home.
Winter says these kids have really taken the conservation message to heart. Metlakatla has cut its water use in half since 2016. But the community isn't out of the woods yet. One of its newest diesel generators broke last year, resulting in an emergency declaration. If another extremely dry spell comes along, the town could be powered by a generator that's over 30 years old. As for today, though, the community is back on hydro. Winter points to a landmark waterfall cascading down the mountain. It's likely spillover from one of the main reservoirs. During the worst parts of the drought, this waterfall was dry. The flow should be a happy sight, but Winter says it's more complicated than that.
We used to look at the waterfall and just be so happy to see the waterfall. Oh, the waterfall's lovely and awesome. And now we look at it and we're like, man, that's all stored energy.
Metlakatla is in the process of figuring out how it can raise the levels of the reservoir to hold more precipitation on the good days. This system, constructed with the understanding there would always be enough water, was built for a different time. Gavin Hudson says some in the community are uneasy about a future with less rain.
Most of our people who just want to provide for their families and raise their children and have a good life and work hard in their jobs, I think those folks have just another thing to worry about. Higher light bills, oceans that are changing, forests that are changing.
In Metlakatla, I'm Elizabeth Jenkins.